Hello everyone and welcome back to Covetous Imp Gaming. Today, I want to give a spoiler-free review of Baldur's Gate 3. Before we do that, please like this video, leave us a comment below about videos you would like to see in the future, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you're alerted to our future content, and check us out on Facebook and Patreon. Those links are in the description down below. So before I get started, I want to say I didn't look at this game at all. Not during alpha, beta, open betas, early access, nothing. I said I want a complete game in my hand before I'll even look at it. And I've heard a lot of people say that this has changed or this has changed, and I'm glad that I didn't have that initial interaction with it and then have a changed game. I went into completely blank. And like I said, I wanted to do a completely spoiler-free review, so I want to talk about the mechanical aspects of the game. So I've seen a lot of people on social media say if you're looking to learn how to play D&D, or you have the itch to play D&D, then Baldur's Gate 3 is the game for you. And I do think that is true. You are going to get a basic tutorial on how to play, and you're going to feel what it is to play through basically an entire campaign in your face. There are some things that if you're a new player and you've picked up a player's handbook and you've cover to cover read your player's handbook like a good player, then you're going to see that some things are different, and it really is a lot of the spells that have been changed. Some spells that normally have a minute duration don't have that minute duration anymore. Or some spells that just mechanically wouldn't make sense in a video game have been changed, but still exist in the game. For example, I think Slow is one of the spells. It only lasted 3 rounds where it would normally last 10 rounds. The other one was Hero's Feast. It does about half of what a rules as written Hero's Feast does. Still a really good spell, just not really worthy of that 6th level spell slot anymore because it's not there anymore. You know, with all of the good stuff that Hero's Feast does in the player's handbook, it's not as good in Baldur's Gate 3. So another issue was that you can cast a full action spell and a bonus action spell, where in tabletop rules, you can only cast, for example, a full action cantrip and a bonus action spell, or vice versa. There were plenty of times where I mass cure wounds and mass healing worded in the same round to really boost the healing that my characters took. And that's not the way that the rules as written are in D&D, but I understand that it would probably be a programming disaster to kind of pigeonhole that into the rules of this game. So for people that never played Baldur's Gate 1 or 2 or the extra DLCs that came with them, don't worry. You don't need to play those games to understand what's going on in Baldur's Gate 3. There are some characters that make reappearances. One that was a major character in Baldur's Gate 1 that I completely glanced over when I saw him in Baldur's Gate 3 until I was watching something on YouTube about Baldur's Gate 1 and was like, it's that guy. That being said, if you have been playing D&D and you've run Descent to Avernus before, Baldur's Gate 3 does pick up shortly after Descent to Avernus ends. Like all D&D campaigns, you hit a fork in the road and they can end many different ways. Descent to Avernus being probably the most drastic fork in the road in a campaign that I've seen. It ended the way that they pushed forward. It ended in the worst way possible. But that was to keep basically D&D lore canonically correct going into Baldur's Gate 3. Again, for that seasoned D&D player, there are a ton of Easter eggs sprinkled throughout this game that are going to kind of be throwbacks to other campaigns that were pre-written that have been out since 5e started. Shortly after starting my game, I put out a post that Baldur's Gate 3 was kind of changing the way that I looked at D&D. And it was changing the way I looked at D&D for the better. The way that an obvious combat encounter can quickly shift into a social encounter and then shift again into kind of pitting one side against another, or having this, hey, I have this problem, I need you to go talk to this person. And the person's digs their heels in and says no, and sends you back to your quest giver. And the quest giver says, well, I don't have any other options. Go kill that person. And then that person wants you to kill your initial quest giver. And you have this tough choice to make. It just, like, the way that that unfolds as a social encounter kind of blew my mind as, and the stuff that I got away with deception and persuasion, just kind of like I was shot early on in this game, because going into it like, oh man, this is going to be like a kind of like a gritty, like, you know, like kill a bunch of stuff, level up, kill a bunch of stuff, level up. The experience that I gained from turning a combat encounter into a social encounter, and the way that things like inspiration worked and all those things, just kind of like, I feel like inspiration is the kind of thing in 5e that you can kind of sleep on or really celebrate. And one of the things that they've tried to fix going forward with their new rule set is making inspiration be a big part of your long rest or things like that. So I thought all that stuff was amazing, and kind of just gave me pause to reconsider some combat encounters that I throw at players. So my initial run through of the game, I played the Dark Urge background, which gives you the Haunted One background from Curse of Strahd. I wouldn't say it's a regret, but the story is very different. The story that you're going to experience is a much darker story than what you get if you just make a custom character. And I found that out as I asked a friend of mine who was also playing through, and we were at a similar point in the game, how she dealt with a certain part of the game. And she said, I didn't experience that. That wasn't in my game. And that's when we found out that the Dark Urge story is very different than the main story. My regret is that I didn't play through the main story without the Dark Urge first, and then went back to experience the dark side of the game, because I feel like I thoroughly enjoyed the Dark Urge, and don't know that I'll enjoy the not Care Bear version of the game, but the good version of the game as much as I enjoyed the Dark Urge version. So the last thing I want to talk about is DCs. When you go into a skill check, it's going to tell you what the DC for your skill check is. It's going to show you any modifiers that you currently have active. And then there's going to be a pull down that will allow you to cast allow your party to cast any other buffs onto you that will enhance your ability to make that DC. Which I think is very good, because it's going to tell you basically, this is the modifier that you currently have, and this is the stuff that you can add to it if you have a way to add advantage, etc., etc., etc. The only really bad thing that I encountered with the DC system is there were some things that when you went to like pick a lock, for example, it would just tell you that lockpicking was impossible. In those situations, there's just not a keyhole or something there that you can interact with. You have to find another way around to open that door. The big issue, though, is when you had a DC that was meant to be impossible, and they put the DC of 99 on it. And I only saw this, I want to say 2 to 3 times in game. But it's basically, you have to hit a nat 20 or you fail. And I hate that, because it should either just be impossible, or it should be a 35 or something, where you still need a very high number, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a 20. In a game like this, where basically, you're looking at success or failure is kind of based on, you have a 5% chance at success. is a tough number to hit sometimes. That being said, it also promotes the one thing that you can do in this game that you can't do in a regular tabletop game of 5e, and that is save your game. And if you say, oh, it's a DC 99, I'll save my game. Oh, I rolled a 2. I'll just load my game. Oh, I'll roll. I got an 18. Not there yet. I'll load. And you keep going until you hit that 20. That's not teaching you how to play D&D. That's teaching you how to play D&D, how to not play D&D. D&D is based on succeeding and failing, hitting and missing. And as you get higher in level, your amount of misses are probably going to go down drastically, and your times of successes are going to go up drastically. That being said, the 99 thing, it just felt weird kind of going into it with, you have a 5% chance that this is going to go your way, and if it doesn't, sorry. So overall, I think they did a great job with this game. It is probably the closest thing to actual tabletop D&D that you're going to get in a video game. That being said, if you are the kind of person that's going to do that whole save, load kind of play style, it's not D&D anymore. It's you're gaming on your success, which you should just be able to do with your putting the best character forward and having other people there to enhance your abilities. So that's my review of Baldur's Gate 3. If you guys have any questions about how I did my party or things like that, you can leave them down in the comments down below, and I will answer those. Still trying to keep it as spoiler-free as possible. I hope you guys like this video. We'll see you soon.